Going here. First, bring up the co-director, Brendan Belomo. And his co-director, Slava Leonchek. And Frodo. With 4 women producers, amazing on this. I wanted to start with, so people get a sense of the history and how the film really became this. And Brendan, could you give us the origin story of how this started?
Well, you were just mentioning Anya and Andrey, the producers. She actually grew up under Russian oppression in communist Poland, and about 8 years ago she discovered Anya and Slava's figurines, and she was so moved by them because they reminded her of home. And the 4 of us actually started to work together on an animation project when Russia invaded Ukraine. And we called up Anya and Slava to ask them if they were okay, and to see, you know, okay, when are you guys leaving, we asked. And Slava said, we're not going to leave, we're going to keep making art at night. And I said, why, what are you doing during the day? And he told us for the very first time, I'm in the Ukrainian Special Forces, and I'm teaching everyday people, civilians, to fight, to resist. And the notion that they were going to continue creating their work, and that they were splitting their time, that they felt they had no other choice. Slava was seeing that there were so many brave journalists who were from the West coming and sharing what was happening there, but it was a perspective from the outside. And so we really wanted to empower Slava and Anya to share a personal story, to be able to allow the audience to step into their shoes. And so we wanted to send a camera to them. Technical challenges at every turn. Speaking of which, at that time, we were 6,000 miles apart. We were speaking 2 different languages. You'll see Slava and Anya's English has become amazing, but at the time they didn't speak any, and I don't speak Ukrainian or Russian. And we were separated by these 2 different cultures. They were in a war zone, and we didn't know what we were going to do. But we discovered that there were incredible volunteers, and it was actually a makeup artist in New Jersey who would fill her apartment with 50, 60 bags of medical supplies, military aid. And she said, I'll take the cameras to Slava. And the camera, this first camera, arrived, but we had a deep challenge. They had never filmed anything before. And we didn't know how to even begin this. This is a first-time documentary for myself and Aniela as well. We were just beginning. It was very small, it was very grassroots. And we asked Anya at this time, how are you guys feeling these first days of the war? And she said, we're so alone here, we feel as if we're on the moon. And this reminded me of something from our history, this moment when the Apollo spacecraft was failing. But back on the ground in Houston, they had a duplicate of every single piece of equipment. And so for every lens and camera that we sent to Ukraine, we had the same thing here in Los Angeles. And I could hold this new paintbrush, so to speak, in my hands, and Slava and our amazing cinematographer, Andrey, who's an oil painter by trade, they were able to transfer their instincts into cinema. And we set up sort of an impromptu film school where we would get together each day on Zoom and to kind of design the class for them to learn how to tell a story in this new way. And what they captured is what you witnessed tonight.
It's amazing. Slava, what was it like, some of the first footage, and when you and Andrey really started the first footage? They had never, been cinematographers, but I think because of painters and artists, you did it. You naturally did it.
Thank you. Of course, we were surprised. We never made movie before, and we never thought about this. But from the very beginning, we understood it's amazing opportunity to share our personal experience as artists and as civilian soldiers. And we understood what we may do, because we understood we will never be focused on destruction or violence, because all war looks same, all destruction looks same, and much more important to show what may be destroyed because of this war. People afraid watch war movie because war is horrible and disgusting, and nobody wants to be upset. But we understood our responsibility as artists and as filmmakers is to bring hope and inspiration even from the center of this destruction. And Brandon's tutorials was amazing. It was so easy for us just pick up a camera and start to film. But I was serving in Ukrainian army at that time. And I was able to work on Porcelain War only because my friends, my unit, my commanders, they all completely supported us. And when I picked up my camera, someone picked up a rifle in my place. These brave guys fought instead of me because they thought it's so important to show this, to show their experience, and it was experience of success because it's regular, everyday people, civilian, peaceful people who came to army to defend their homes and their families, their friends, but also they felt responsibility in face of history because they understood this war is, and our story is not about Ukraine and Ukrainians only. It's about all of us who are ready to stand for democracy.
Just the technical aspects and the level of difficulty in fundraising as a producer. Tell us a bit about just the journey that you are on, because it's just you and the other three producers, just amazing to have this film and all the difficult aspects with just the communication between the two production companies.
Yeah, it was, we were in Australia, Los Angeles, Ukraine. The animation company was in Poland. I'm in Colorado. So we were spread out all over, and the first thing of concern was their safety, and then obviously their physical safety, and then also what we would do with material that was entrusted in us, so that we could make sure that we promised to stay 3 months behind any footage. I couldn't share. We can talk about fundraising. I don't know if that's an interesting thing for you all, but for me, it was really a challenge. And from Anya and I making a lot of these calls, we couldn't send decks, we couldn't send footage, we couldn't even give the title of the film. We didn't give locations. We were trying to be really protective of where they were because we didn't want to give away locations. So we had to really lean into trust, people that trusted us, that believed in we would do the right thing. And you know, we didn't even have the title of the film released or anything. So there was no deck or clips or anything. But then when we got into the production side of it, it was really kind of became this constant flow of material. You know, we started getting more and more footage, and it was so beautiful, and that was unusual. And we talked about, should Brendan, he really wanted to go and be there with Slava, and we talked about it as a team, and it made sense that we not go because it was so intimate and so personal, and we just loved how different that was. I'd never seen anything like that. So we made that decision, but we still needed to know more about it, and you get that organically when you're on location. So we started putting the camera, and Andrey would put the camera like you saw in that one scene. That was the first time we did that. We put the camera and we were all on Zooms with them and said, how did you meet? And that they just told us, and ran and got the photo, and we were like, is that you? And yeah, this is Slava. And so it just kept unfolding, and the footage came in very much the way you see it in the film. One day there would be beautiful footage, and the next day there would be art, and then Slava training, and then a mission. So the film really goes through their life of living in war, not just cowering and hiding from it. You know, they actually really embrace every day and every beautiful thing around them and live. And I think that's what makes them so inspiring in their story.
Beautiful. One of the amazing aspects of the film is the animation and the difficulty of just sort of how do you capture that and all of her work, all of Anya's work over the years. So Anya, can you talk about seeing your work and how it was developed into animated?
Animation, it was, I think it was first, it was roots of our project, yes?
From the very beginning, it was part of it.
We know Brendan and Daniela through our art many years before the war. We have idea, you have idea, to make animation with our animals, our works. And when we started to thinking about animation in our film, we took all photos of our work, of it's more than 20 years of our work. It's very many photos, very many works. And we sent all this material to Poland, to absolutely beautiful animation studio, Blue. And in them study all this material, all these photos. And they study language of my drawing. And they make 7,000 pictures to bring my drawing to life. And in one moment, during our Zoom connection, I see first, what is it, test of this animation, and I see how my drawing, how my snail without shell, my refugee, absolutely bravely moving, And it was absolutely beautiful for me because my story begin live without me.
Anya painted these three figurines, especially for our movie. And she painted this story on these figurines, but Anya's artistic language is very metaphoric, and she never painted bombing on figurine because nobody needs porcelain figurine with this picture of bombing on it. And it's miracle how natural, how organic Blue Studio was able to continue Anya's art and tell this story about our past and story, what we tell, but Anya never illustrated this.
Yeah, one of the things about that too in our conversations, they told those stories and then Blue animated those stories. So it was beautiful interpretation and collaboration.
I think, and also some of the most difficult things that have happened are portrayed in the animation, which makes the film so strikingly different and beautiful.
I think in a sense, you know, it was all the places that you could never take a camera. We don't have a time machine to go into their beautiful past in Crimea. They didn't want to look directly at the very beginning of the war, because if you see that in news footage, you just disengage. We wanted to understand it from an emotional standpoint, from a very personal standpoint, and that's what Anya's language does. And when you see, you know, they started talking about what they wanted Ukraine to be in the future, a peaceful place to return to everything that they loved about it, that was a way to travel there in their work. And Slava, at one point, had said, you know, this is completely new for us to work in cinema because we've never used time before. We know composition, we know color, we know design. But I talked with him and Anya, and we were saying, no, you guys are depicting time in your figurines. There's seasons, there's movement of the characters, there's emotions, there's change. And so the animation, I think, was a way just to kind of melt that and let it flow. And I think that's always been a part of their work, and I think that's why you guys are such incredible storytellers in film now.
And what about Brenda, talk a bit about just when you're making a film 6,000 miles away, you don't speak the language, the internet, you're getting the footage transferred, and that's unreliable. How is that? Tell us about that.
I mean, there were two sides of it. On one hand, what ended up happening is we were working together over Zoom with an interpreter, and we would be waiting for translation, and we would begin to sketch. And it was so frustrating, we thought, gosh, we're not fluent in the same language. But these sketches became little storyboards, and they became diagrams of scenes and how they would want to shoot things, and we'd look at paintings and sculptures that we'd love. And that was something where we realized we were fluent in this universal language of visual art. And on the flip side of it, we would be on Zoom, and then there would be an air raid siren, or there would be shelling, and we would lose connection, and our hearts would stop. We would be up all night, and we didn't know what would be happening. And then, you know, a day would pass, and Slava would say, it's okay, you know, the footage is uploading again, and so it was completely unreliable because, you know, the shelling is absolutely constant there. There's no separation, you know, before making this film, I would hear about its concept of like, oh, the front line, you go somewhere and you fight. But the war literally is right outside of their door. There is no separation. There was, in October, for example, 30 days of shelling. There was one day without shelling. So it was just harrowing.
And I talked about this before the movie started, is the music of Dakabraka makes the film just so beautiful. And I know that this came sort of as a suggestion from Andrey, correct?
Well, I would have asked Slava at the beginning of when we started to edit, is there a band that you love? And you said,
yes, Andrey used this music as a background when he painted. We love this music, and we were surrounded with Dakabraka all the time. When Brendan sent equipment to us, And in the car of our volunteers played Dakabra.
And Slava played for me this song Vesna that you just heard, at the very beginning of the film and also the very end. And it's like opening a door into Ukraine. It was so unique and specific and honored all of the different cultural aspects and the musical history, but it was also experimental and artistic and universal. It was so emotional. It had the entire range of human emotion in it. And so we began to cut one scene and then another to this music. And I went to Paula and Anya and I said, well, this assembly is starting to be all one band. But
as a producer, Paula was like, that's the last thing you want to hear.
Yeah. And where were they? They were traveling every single day to a different city in the world. And Anya and I started stalking them, and we get another scene, and it had Dakaraka. We get another scene, Dakaraka, and it was working so well. And I was like, there's nothing like this in the world. Nothing could replace it. And so Anya and I started stalking them, and she's really good at finding things on the internet, and she's DMing everybody. And we tried it. So then we actually got tickets to their show, and we were like, we'll just hold up a sign, like, call us. True. And a few days before, they got in touch with us, and we had a Zoom with the manager, Anya and I. It was like 6 in the morning. She popped on the screen, and she was in tears, and she said that she had been shelling all night around her building, and she hadn't slept, and she was really emotional in Kyiv. And she said, we told her what we were doing and about these artists that were telling their story, and that the band is our artist, and we had a painted drone, and there's the painted cello, and it all just seemed to be so beautifully interwoven. And she said, we're sending you all the music, you can have everything we've released and not released. And we said, well, we're gonna give you a fee for that. And she said, any money you give us is gonna go towards a foundation that supports musicians and their families who are fighting. So that felt so right that it was actually going to go back and help artists. And and since then we did meet them, and Slava and Anya got to meet them in Frodo, and they've seen the film. They love the film as well.
It's weird, but we met them in person first time here in the United States.
I'd like to see if there's any questions from the audience. Yes, back there.
Okay. Do I just yell?
Yeah, just real.
Yeah. So one of the things that the movie talked about was erasure and the way in which art sort of captures our collective histories and memories. What are the things that you want to make sure in Ukrainian culture and history are preserved through the art that you're creating? And that's for our two friends in the middle.
I think some of the things of the culture you really wanted to preserve and show in this film, Ukrainian culture.
We can talk about erasure also.
Anyway, it's maybe most important part for us. It's natural for us as artists think about culture as resistance. But also, as Ukrainian, we have our culture and our identity literally under shelling as main target of this aggression. Aggressors try to destroy our culture and our identity, and take away our free choice how to think and how to create. And since start of big war, our museums was destroyed, our university was damaged, and so many our artists and actors and teachers and writers and any people who contribute culture were killed on front line, in their own bedroom or kitchen, because Russia shelling districts of apartment house, and we cannot fix anything. We cannot recreate these artifacts, and much more important, nobody can bring these people back to life. And because they killed future of our culture, and our responsibility here and now to rebuild future of our culture, to create something new instead of all these people.
Right here.
It was an amazing film, and thank you for having this Q&A. Well, in the United States, obviously, we have a political situation, how is Ukraine feeling about the sort of change in leadership here in the United States? How is that impacting, or will?
Thank you. We really more thinking about our responsibility on the ground. We cannot be focused on future or something what can came from outside, because our movie is about my friends who are now still in fight. Everyone in my unit survived so far, and it's a miracle. They are surviving. They are really worn out. Their health is damaged. Their families are broken apart, but they are still ready to defend their people, to preserve humanity, and even develop culture in the face of this aggression. And I think it's not about Ukraine and Ukrainian only. I think it's clear impact of this war, biggest war in Europe since Second World War. It is for whole world. If aggressor will be punished, probably Europe will have, and whole world will have many years of calm without war. If aggressor will be inspired to be continuous.
I have time for one or two more. Right here.
Super quick question. What are your favorite pieces of art from each other that you outside of the movie?
Can you repeat the question? Louder?
The question is, Slava, what is your favorite piece of art that Anya's made? And Anya, your favorite piece of art?
I begin to
Slava.
thinking. I really don't know.
My favorite piece of Anya's art is last piece of Anya's art, because she painted better and better every time.
Yes. He was asking how long have they been here, they're going back. One thing I wanted to say is, as they made this film 6,000 miles apart, the first time that they ever met was at Sundance, when they got off the plane in Park City. Must have been amazing.
English when they got
They
out.
spoke no.
We have had an interpreter for all the first 4 months of the
They won the festival.
Thank you. We arrived here for Sundance, and we thought about months, few weeks. We never thought about to be here so long. We have a lot of responsibility in Ukraine. Our friend Andrey, our cinematographer, is in Kharkiv now. His family is in safety in Luxembourg, but his family is still broken apart, like millions of Ukrainian families because of this war. And Andrey is so alone now. My mom is in Kharkiv. He's working in hospital. She's working in hospital, and she not agree to be relocated and safe in Germany to her lovely granddaughter because her work is really important, but she is old. She is almost 80. She have not good health, and she completely alone now. My father died in December. We need to be back to home as soon as possible, and my soldiers also wait on me. But now, because behind our movie is bravery of all Ukrainian soldiers and patience of all Ukrainian civilians, it's our responsibility here and now support our movie and share our experience. We are still here, but we'll be back as soon as possible.
Thank you guys for coming and sharing the time here. We really appreciate all the support, and thank you all. And we'll all go out into the lobby.